In this video, I'll be going over every pose in Classic Physique and finding out who's the best in each right now. There are 5 mandatory poses in this division: the front double, the side chest, rear double, ab and thigh, and favorite classic pose. For that final one, because there are so many shots that can be classified under the favorite classic pose, I'll throw in a bunch of other poses that fit the definition of the favorite classic pose. Starting off with the front double biceps, I think the best in this pose right now is Niall Darwin. He might not have the single best arms or legs in the division, but the way everything balances together is really incredible. His small waist is freaky, and when you add in his wide, flaring lats, it creates the most dramatic X-frame and V-taper I've seen in a very long time. The silhouette he makes in this pose is downright absurd, and in my opinion, it is the most perfect overall look in the division at the moment. The only weakness he has is that his clavicles are a bit narrow, but it is a minor detail compared to how strong everything else is. For an honorable mention, I would actually put Mike Sommerfeld here. He is a bit stouter and more compact, but his width and taper are nearly as dramatic as Niall's. His quads are definitely better, and he hits the pose with a lot of power and confidence, but I do not think his arms are as separated or as flowing as Niall's. To me, Mike does not quite have that open and elegant look that does make Niall so impressive, and also he doesn't look as classic, but that is a bit more subjective than anything else. Moving on to the side chest, I think the clear best here has got to be Chris Bumstead. His side leg is easily the best in the division by miles, and it might even be the most underrated aspect of his physique. In my opinion, the shape and detail he has in that leg makes the pose look flawless before you even look at the upper body. When you do look up though, his chest sits perfectly full and round, and also very much detailed, and the way his delt and arm tie in shows incredible separation, flow, and overall development. On top of that, Chris knows exactly how to pose to maximize everything, and it really shows with the amount of dominance he has. The silhouette he creates is also unmatched, and it highlights just how complete his physique really is. In my opinion, this has got to be one of his most polished poses, and a big reason why he is so untouchable in this division. Next up is the rear double, and for me this one comes down to Mike Sommerfeld and Jose Manuel. I think Mike probably has the most complete upper body in this pose, with a back, arms, and delts that are just insane and completely overpowering. His detail and separation in the back double is some of the best I've seen, and from the waist up he looks very difficult to beat. The weakness though is that his lower body does not quite match. His hamstrings do not stand out, and more importantly, his inner thighs lack a lot of volume, which makes his legs look a bit underwhelming compared to his upper half. That is where Jose Manuel makes his case. He has one of the best lower bodies from behind at least, especially when it comes to the hamstrings. His conditioning is absolutely ridiculous all around, and while his back and arms may not have the same, polished and aesthetic look that Mike's do have, they still get the job done, and they get the job done right. He is the definition of dense and grainy with muscle on top of muscle everywhere that makes this pose so impressive on him. I also have to mention Chris Bumstead. I mean, how can you not? Even until the end, he was dominating in this pose, and that says a lot about him. Mike Sommerfeld has one of the craziest backs in the division, but even then he was not winning this pose easily against Chris in 2024. The reason I put Chris as an honorable mention though, and not actually as a contender for the best in the division, is because I think his rear double started to regress a bit, especially in the lats in terms of width, and it was not as dominant as it used to be. That was especially noticeable when he made his open debut at the 2024 Prague Pro, where the back double did not look as commanding as it once did. Also, if you guys are enjoying the video so far, a like and sub would really be awesome, as it helps out the channel tremendously and would make my day. For the ab and thigh, I think Urs Kalasinski is extremely underrated in this pose, especially in the crunched down variation. His height gives him a very imposing silhouette, and he has some of the best abs in the division, both genetically as well as developmentally. Combine that with a small waist, nicely flaring lats, and really full, deeply cut quads, and the look comes together beautifully. To be honest, there are a lot of guys who hit a very strong ab and thigh, so this one is definitely more opinion based, but I think Urs has one of the most complete versions out there. When it comes to the vacuum, though, Chris Bumstead clearly has the best in the division. This has been his calling card since day one, and I still think it's what makes him stand out so much. The wide lats, the tiny sucked in waist, and the quads flaring out underneath create a silhouette that is absolutely classic. In my opinion, this version of the ab and thigh rivals the very best we have ever seen, and it is one of the poses that has cemented Chris as the face of classic physique. Next, for the classic single biceps, I think Terrence Ruffin has one of the best versions out there. What has always impressed me about him in this pose at least is how filled out and complete he looks. There's not a single body part that does blow you away, but the balance and proportion he brings in it makes him look super refined and polished. It has always been one of his most reliable poses because of that level of detail and control. When it comes to a bit more wow factor, though, I've got to go with Chris Bumstead. Just like Terrence, he does not have the best arms in the division, but his small waist, dominant lats, and proportional arms and legs, on top of his amazing structure, make this pose flow beautifully. Add in his crazy condition, and it really becomes one of his best poses, and one where he always looks very dominant. As an honorable mention, I would also actually include Urs here. At the 2024 Olympia, he looked absolutely insane in this pose, with very sharp lines and, detail and condition that was never present before, and finally arms that matched the rest of his physique. His condition and flow were certainly on point, and it showed how much potential he has in this shot. Now in the front lat spread, I think Chris Bumstead is the clear standout. In my opinion, he's the original best in this pose in the division, and when he hits it, he looks very similar to a smaller version of Dorian Yates, especially in the way the lats flare out. There's this round, bulbous quality to them that makes them look freaky and sets him apart from nearly everyone else. His structure is also perfectly suited for this pose, with wide shoulders, a narrow waist, and a balanced upper to lower body ratio that flows seamlessly. All of that highlights the lats even more, and it's what makes this pose one of his best. Now, Justin Ballerina is probably the closest I have seen to replicating that same look. In this pose, he almost looks like a carbon copy of Chris, with amazing lats, very solid arms, and also pretty good legs. Structurally, he may be even a bit more impressive than Chris, but I don't think he has the same level of refinement or polish as, a hole in his physique as Chris may have just yet. I also want to mention Logan Franklin here. He might not be the most imposing, especially in terms of the lats or chest, but I have always been a huge fan of how he hits the pose. It may not be the best in the division, but the execution and flow he brings definitely deserves recognition. For the most muscular, I think Michael DeBoule looks the best in the hands together variation. He comes across as shredded to the bone, with dense muscle maturity that really jumps out. His structure and proportions are solid enough, but this level of condition that he brings makes the pose really stand out to me, and it's always looked great on him. Now, in the crab variation, Wesley Vissers is the one who shines. His massive frame gives him a ton of muscle to show off, and the way his chest striates, his shoulders cut up, and the way his arms pop out makes the pose look absolutely crazy. The sheer amount of detail, muscle, and size that he's able to bring to this variation makes it one of his most impressive shots. Finally, I have to include Logan Franklin here for the more classic variation of a one-hand-on-hip version. He looks extremely aesthetic in this version, and it is a beautiful pose that really shows off his flow. It does stray away from the traditional most muscular focus when it comes to freak factor and shock value, but I think it still deserves recognition as a classic spin on the pose. Moving on to the 3/4 twisting rear double biceps, I think Chris Bumstead is absolutely untouchable here. While many competitors try to emulate this legendary pose, I have never seen anyone look so dominant in it. He blends classic aesthetics with modern levels of total body proportion, as well as crazy condition in a way that nobody else has been able to do. He really has everything here: balanced arms and legs, a powerful and detailed back, and condition that really takes this pose to a whole nother level. The detail in the glutes alone is ridiculous. Hardly anyone shows that from this angle specifically, which should show you how crazy it is. In my opinion, this is one of his best poses when it comes to the classic ones he has, and nobody else has ever come close to matching the overall look that he creates. Now we have the crucifix pose, and I think Ramon Dino's the one who owns this shot. While there may be other competitors who look more balanced in this one, Ramon's level of freak factor takes it to another level. His arms are what makes this pose so crazy. He has those insane forearms and the biceps and triceps that are fully inserted and long, and everything looks freakish and instantly draws your eye. Combine that with a tiny waist and big, sweeping quads, and you get a dramatic silhouette and taper that really stands out on stage. I will say that his lats are not the strongest here, but in my opinion, this pose has always been about the arms and overall shape. All in all, the way Ramon puts it all together gives him one of the most impressive crucifix poses in classic physique today. For the Mantis pose, I think Wesley Vissers looks absolutely insane. He has the kind of physique that reeks of the golden era classic physique is built on, and his structure almost seems perfectly made for this pose. His arms are full and round with a lot of detail, and the silhouette he creates looks incredibly strong and imposing. In my opinion, I've never seen someone look so naturally suited for a pose, and it is one of those shots that really highlights why Wesley is such a unique presence in this division. As an honorable mention, I would actually include Breon Ainsley. Before Wesley really came into his own, Breon was, at least for me, the best in this pose. His arms may actually have more quality to them because of the greater arm separation on the inside, and the detail he shows is second to none. Still, his structure is not as dominant or as proportional as Wesley's looks in this one, which is why I think Wesley has surpassed him here. When it comes to the frontal variation of the side triceps, I've got to be honest and say it's not my favorite pose in this division. Compared to other shots, it does not have the same excitement or wow factor. Still, I think the competitor who really makes it work has got to be Terrence Ruffin. He has always loved hitting this pose, and you can tell he knows how to present it in the best way possible. While his triceps themselves are not the most freakish in the division, the balance and completeness of his physique overall carry him here. His midsection looks tight and refined and very aesthetic, his quads have the right amount of sweep and separation, and his arms and delts flow smoothly together. Terrence has such a refined and polished look overall that even in a pose that I usually find boring, he makes it stand out enough and looks impressive. Next is the victory pose, which is one of the most iconic in the division, and for me the two standouts are Logan Franklin and Ramon Dino. Now Logan really shines here because of his balance and aesthetics. His proportions are spot on, and he does not seem to lack size or shape in any area, at least in this pose. What makes him stand out is the refinement and detail that he brings, because everything flows together seamlessly and the overall look is clean and aesthetic in a way that fits this pose perfectly. Ramon, on the other hand, hits it with that same freak factor that we saw from him in the Crucifix. His arms look crazy, his waist stays tight, and his quads flare out to give him a very dramatic X frame. The weakness for him does come from the lats, which do not really contribute much in this pose, and also recently his condition has not really been spot on to say the least, but I would still say that he brings a very powerful rendition of this pose that a lot of fans love. Personally, I do think Logan does look outstanding here, and I would probably choose him over Ramon, but I still see the argument either way. Now, the archer pose might be a controversial pick, but in my opinion, the best right now in this one has got to be Urs Kalasinski. I think he is incredibly underrated here, and he really brought this pose up significantly at the 2024 Olympia. His arms, which used to be a weakness, now look very solid and give the pose much more balance. When you combine that with his top-tier aesthetics, masterful posing, and crazy good balance, I would say, the result is, to me, the most proportional and overall balanced archer pose in the division. I know some competitors may have freakier arms that make the pose stand out more, but I think Urs puts everything together in a way that makes the version look the most complete. In my eyes, this is the best looking archer pose right now, though I know a lot of people might not agree with that. For the modified archer pose, or what many people would call the Frank Zane or Ziz pose, I think Mike Sommerfeld looks incredible. His proportions from top to bottom are so dominant that this pose almost seems designed for him. He hits a great vacuum, his arms and quads look massive, and his waist stays very tight with the lats flaring out. On paper, it should be one of the most dominant shots in Classic, and in practice, I would say that it is. To me, Mike still carries the kind of flowing lines and structure that keep him looking like a true Classic competitor, even with all the size and density that he has. Logan Franklin also deserves a mention here. His version of this pose is definitely more streamlined compared to Mike's, with a balanced and very classic look. He has great lines, solid arms and legs, and a level of detail that always shows through. The only drawback is that his slightly narrow structure and less dense frame do not make the pose look as commanding in a competitive setting. Still though, the execution is impressive, clean, and very polished, and he shows a beautiful rendition of this pose. To wrap things up, the kneeling twisting ab shot is a pose that does not get a lot of recognition today, but in the past was hit by legends like Bob Paris. But when it's hit right, it is one of the most impressive shots in the entire division. It does take a lot of coordination to pull it off well, which is why it's kind of hard to hit, and in my own opinion, I think Chris Bumstead is the best here. He has one of the most streamlined midsections in this one, and when you pair that with his upper body width, it creates the exact look you're looking for. On top of that, Chris adds a lot of little artistic touches to the way that he hits it, which makes the shot not only very sound, but also beautiful to look at. It may not be a mandatory pose, but in a routine, it is absolutely stunning. Urs Kalasinski also does deserve some credit here because he brings his own flair to this shot. His waist and taper are nearly as impressive as Chris's, and the posing skill that he has to make it flow is just also incredible to say the least. Whenever he hits this one, he puts his own flair to it, like I said, and it always comes across as one of the standout moments in his routine. Anyways, guys, that about does it for this video and all the poses that I wanted to cover. Let me know in the comments down below your thoughts and opinions, and most importantly, if I missed any poses, let me know who you think is the best in those. With that all being said, though, I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching.